man. I am your neighbor.
I am a member of your church.
I am.
I am. I am.
I am a police officer.
Support your local law enforcement officials. Sponsored by the Pennsylvania Fraternal Order of Police. Visit partnersinpublicsafety.com.
101.1 and AM 1160 WCCS and at WCCSradio.com.
Indiana in the morning, WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, WCCSradio.com. That guy over there is Bob Pollock. He's with the Extension, and he joins us this morning as we seem to have made a transition here to fall, and did so rather rapidly, rather suddenly. Our visit with Bob this morning, presented by Marcus & Mack, voted best law firm and best personal injury lawyer 4 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online at marcusandmack.com. That was kind of sudden, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, I don't appreciate that.
I know. I'm surprised you don't have a coat on.
Yeah. I had the sweater on earlier. I did, but I took it off. But
yeah, fall kind of came in just right on schedule. No big delays or little bit of extra warm front to keep the season going.
So much so that we are at the end of October and the leaves are still green on the trees. Have you noticed
Yes.
Some have already turned and lost their leaves all very, very quickly, but the majority of the leaves on the trees are still green.
Yeah, they're still hanging on there.
Man.
Yeah, we have that group of trees, various species that kind of turned early when it was still dry, and then dropped leaves, and then we got that moisture, and they're just hanging on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've had this discussion in the past, talking about the zones in which we are, the weather zones,
right?
The growing zones, and ours is shifting to what was a more southerly zone is now coming a little bit further north.
Yes. Yeah, Zone 6. We used to be a strong Zone 5, and now they've creeped us into Zone 6, which used to be more east and south. And, of course, those areas have also crept into warmer climate zones, too. So, hardiness zones.
If we have, say, peach trees, and some people do have peach trees around the area, their fruit is more likely to survive each year than maybe they were 10 or 20 years ago. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we should think, oh, all right, I'm going to start planting coconut trees.
No.
Tropical plants still aren't going to do as well here as they will further south.
No, we can't go that far. It's kind of a subtle difference, and there's no guarantee. Some winters, we may stay that 5 to 10 degrees warmer, but we can easily... look how frost came right on schedule. Pretty much the second week of October, we just about can guarantee that will happen. And sure enough, despite all the different weather we had this growing season, still that came and hit, and there you are. That can be the end of the season. Now we haven't had a really heavy freeze yet, way down in the 20s yet.
Yeah.
It's going to take a couple more below freeze, at freezing or below freezing, those general frosts and freezes, I think, to help encourage those trees to lose the rest of the leaves. But yeah, so it's not a guarantee, and we know how variable our weather can be here. You can look at the radar and it says it's going to rain, and then it doesn't. And whether it's the mountains that hold it up, if it's not a strong enough front to push it through or over, or it might just go northeast, and then we get that swirling stuff. What was it? Last week we had the effects of the storm that went up the coast because we didn't have a strong front to push things east and keep that moving and move it up the coast. It swirled back around and hit us anyways.
Yeah, we've not had a hurricane season that had come on shore And typically we don't get the full brunt of a hurricane in this area, but we do get some pretty heavy rains from it and some sustained rains for a while from hurricane season. And with the drought, we could have used the rain portion of it. We could do without the wind portion of it. But without that, it sort of changes the growing pattern for probably a year or more, would it not?
So really, we have to be prepared one way or the other, right? We can't just all of a sudden, oh, well, it's warmer, so we don't need to protect things, or we can maybe plant some things that are a little bit risky and not worry about covering them. No, we have to still be prepared to do that, just because of the weather we've had this month. If you didn't cover it, if you were trying to save it, if it hasn't really, some of those vegetable crops hadn't matured yet, or they're the more tender crops, things like lettuce are pretty tough. They'll take the kind of temperatures and, in fact, grow pretty well in the conditions we have now. Cabbages and Brussels sprouts and some of the broccoli, cauliflower, those things will handle the weather we've had to date without being protected. But then there's other crops like zucchini and some of the other vine crops that we've had cold enough temperatures that they would have had their leaves trimmed off had you not protected those.
I recall the movie Out of Africa back in the 1980s, where she was trying to grow coffee, and it turned out she was too far north in Africa, and they told her you can't grow coffee here, and turned out they were right. But coffee is one of those crops we associate with warmer climates and everything. I was in Kentucky a year or so ago, and in northern Kentucky, they had tropical-oriented plants there in one of the gardens at this place that we visited, and they were growing naturally there in Kentucky. Now, that's not all that farther south than we have here, but it just points out that as, Zone 6 becomes more of the norm, maybe within 10 or 15 years, we're growing some of those plants around here.
It could be. Or if they breed crops, some of the plant material, they can breed more hardy versions of it. That'll, it might not be a 2 or 3 zone change, but it might be half a zone or 1 zone hardier. And boy, that can make a big difference in the amount of plants that, you can grow where you couldn't grow that at all before without some sort of protection in place.
Yeah. Works that way with grasses as well, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because every plant has its range. Some are very broad. They're hardy way down to maybe zone 1 or 2, all the way up to 7 or 8, and then you have another group of plants that goes from 5 to 12.
Yeah.
So, fortunately, there's a big range within most plants that you have flexibility there. But then there's those ones. There's a lot of plants that they can grow farther south that are pretty neat plants.
Yeah.
That we just, without protection, we can't do it here.
Yeah.
Or if you have a more protected location, and that's where you try those things out first, is if you have a little bit, around the house, or you have an area that is shielded from the wind and doesn't get as cold. Those are areas where you can kind of test out those borderline plants and see how they'll do.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting
Introduce
point.
them into the landscape.
As we think about new plants that we might want to try, shrubbery, for instance, things like that, the amount, where they're placed in terms of their sun, but also their exposure to wind and cold and things of that nature, that plays a big factor when we're planning our yards and what they're going to look like, our landscaping. Those are things that we have to consider.
Yes. Yeah. And whether you're on the south side of the slope, the north side of the slope, the north side that doesn't get the sun as much, those are more protected areas, but they, have a shorter growing season too. And those, snow will lay there much longer. It'll lay there first and lay there longer than it will on that any kind of south facing slope.
With the dryness that we have had since the end of July, and that's really when the extra dry weather started, areas, for instance, my garden in the afternoon is going to get a lot of shade. That actually helped it this year, and maybe in past years, when it wasn't as getting as much sun as it should have through the course of the day, it didn't help them as much. But having that shade it really enhanced that. So placing our garden and the available areas in which we can place them, I don't know, in terms of the shade, the woods line around it, placing your garden can be advantageous or disadvantageous depending on where you put it on the yard.
Right, yeah, on the year, on that time frame. And that's a perfect example this summer where a little bit of shade made a difference because it was so dry.
Yeah.
If you weren't supplemental watering, just that little bit of extra shade can make the difference, reduce the stress level, reduce the amount of moisture lost by those plants, keep them going longer than that same plant that's out there in the full baking sun, all day long.
Yeah,
Sun up to sundown.
One of the great things about it was, of course, you plant your plants and your tomatoes, which we did. And when the tomato growing season was over for us and we were done with that, we had grape tomato plants up in another section of the garden that started out as seeds from last year. And so we got a lot of volunteers. And so we were able to keep eating grape tomatoes until we still have a bowl of them at home right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you had them and kept the plants healthy and they did okay, they would, keep flowering and keep fruiting till we have a good hard freeze or you get tired of eating them.
Yeah, well, we'll never grow tired of eating them, I can tell you that. All right, Robert, thank you. A little
You're welcome.
Conversation about climate and the way that it affects our yards and our gardens and things. It's Indiana in the Morning, and it's WCCS 101.1 FM. AM 1160, WCCSradio.com. Fox News next, top of the hour, a couple of moments away. And then we will follow that with news from our WCCS newsroom with Josh Whittison. It's Indiana in the Morning on WCCS. Good morning. Minute and a half away from 8 o'clock.
This is Mark Burdick, Vice President of Renda Media, and our third annual Best of Indiana County contest was record-breaking with 335,000 votes cast, highlighting almost 1,100 businesses in our region. I'm excited to announce that the third annual Best of Indiana County magazine has been released, and we salute all of our winners.
Grand Beginnings Children's Center says thank you to the voters and families for voting them Gold Child Care Center, Gold Preschool, and Silver for customer service. It's really your children who shine at Grand Beginnings Children's Center.
A huge thank you to everyone who voted and supported the Community Guidance Center. Your trust and support inspire us to continue delivering the best care possible. We're proud to serve this incredible community and look forward to helping even more people on their wellness journey.
Discover more local winners in our Best of Indiana County magazine, which is now available.
It's not just hot. It's the hottest deal ever from Vocelli Pizza. For a limited time, get one large one-topping pizza hot from the oven for just $9.99. Order online 7 days a week for carryout or delivery with no limit on this deal. You can stack those pizzas high and order as many one-topping pizzas for $9.99 as you want, as often as you want. But hurry, because who knows how long this will last at Vocelli Pizza. For a hot deal that won't burn your wallet, order from Vocelli Pizza on Oakland Ave.
WCCS, Homer City, Indiana. This is the voice of Indiana County.
WCCS.
He's mad over an ad. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, and President Trump is so upset at Canada, he's just posted again on Truth Social, hours after a late night post that terminated all trade talks. He just wrote, Canada cheated and got caught with this commercial featuring President Reagan from 1987 warning about tariffs.
Tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars.
The Reagan Foundation says Ontario's government, which made the ad, did not give permission to edit the 1987 presidential radio address, misrepresenting it. And Fox's Peter Ducey reports
that ad is the reason the president called off the trade talks, because
he thinks it could taint upcoming Supreme Court rulings on tariffs here. He posted on Truth Social, they only did this to interfere with the decision of the U.S. Supreme Court and other courts. Tariffs are very important to the national security and economy of the USA.
Now, the Supreme Court will consider legal challenges to the president's authority to impose tariffs on a lot of imports around the world. And another Trump post a short time ago, he wrote, it's the most important case at the court ever. And trade is going to be a big topic for the president on a trip to Asia that'll include a sit-down with China's leader.
That meeting next week also comes amid an escalating trade war over agriculture and critical minerals and the threat of triple-digit tariffs imposed.
That's Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House, where the East Wing has been demolished for the president's massive ballroom addition that Trump critics keep questioning. The president leaves tonight for the trip.